Jake stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the alien fleet through the large window. The strange ships looked nothing like human vessels. They were sleek and curved, painted in bright colors that hurt his eyes, but what caught his attention most was how they kept their distance. These aliens, who once thought they could control humanity, now stayed far away and sent messages begging for peace. 5 years ago, this same alien race had tried to destroy every human colony in space. Now they were scared. Jake remembered how it all started back when humans first left Earth and met their neighbors in the galaxy. Lisa Hart was the first human to make contact with aliens. She was the captain of a small exploration ship called the Pioneer. Her crew had been looking for new worlds when they found something much bigger. An entire civilization of 12 different alien species lived together in what they called the Galactic Consortium. These aliens had been at peace for over 1,000 years. At first, the meeting seemed friendly. The aliens welcomed the humans and invited them to a big space station for talks. Lisa brought her best people, including Dr. Carter, who studied alien life forms, was excited to meet so many different species, but he quickly noticed something troubling. The aliens talked to humans like they were children who needed to be taught how to behave. The alien leader was a tall, thin creature with gray skin and 4 arms. His name was impossible for humans to pronounce, so they called him Speaker. Speaker explained that the consortium had rules for all species in the galaxy. New species like humans had to follow these rules without question. Helen Brooks was the human ambassador sent to negotiate with the aliens. She was a smart woman who had spent years preparing for this moment, but nothing had prepared her for what the aliens demanded. They wanted humans to give up all their weapons. They wanted to control where humans could live and how many children they could have. They wanted to decide everything about human life in space. Helen tried to explain that humans valued freedom above all else. She told the aliens that humans would be happy to trade and cooperate, but they would never surrender their independence. The aliens did not understand. In their experience, new species always accepted consortium control. It was the natural order of things. The talks went on for weeks. Helen remained patient, trying to find a compromise, but the aliens became more demanding. They said humans were too violent and dangerous to be trusted with weapons. They pointed to Earth's history of wars as proof that humans could not govern themselves. Carter spent his time studying the different alien species. He learned that most of them had never fought a real war. They had conflicts, but they were settled by the consortium's rules. Combat was formal and limited. The idea of total war, where entire populations fought for survival, was foreign to them. The breaking point came when the aliens tried to take control of a human mining colony. The colony was on a planet called New Houston, orbiting a star humans had named 442. The humans had been mining rare metals there for 2 years when alien ships arrived. The alien commander was a creature that looked like a giant insect. His name was, and he commanded the consortium's military forces, announced that humans had no right to the planet. According to consortium law, the planet belonged to everyone, and humans could only mine there with permission. The colonists refused to leave. They had worked hard to build their settlement, and the metals they mined were needed for human ships and space stations. Nick was the colony's security chief, a former Earth military officer who had volunteered for the dangerous job of protecting frontier settlements. When the alien ships surrounded the planet, Nick knew they were in trouble. He had only 200 security officers to protect 5,000 colonists. The aliens had brought over 5,000 trained soldiers. By any reasonable calculation, the humans should have surrendered immediately. But Nick was not a reasonable man. He had studied the alien military reports that Helen Brooks had shared with the colonies. The aliens fought according to strict rules. They announced their attacks in advance. They avoided harming civilians. They expected their enemies to surrender when defeat was certain. Nick decided to fight using different rules. He scattered his people throughout the colony's underground tunnels. He taught the miners to make bombs from their mining equipment. He set traps in the buildings and prepared to make the aliens pay for every step they took. When the aliens landed, they expected a short battle. They sent messages demanding surrender and gave the humans time to consider their options. This was their mistake. Nick used the time to prepare more traps and move his people into better positions. The battle began at dawn. The aliens advanced in neat formations, their weapons firing in coordinated patterns. They expected the humans to meet them in open combat, following the accepted rules of warfare. Instead, the humans disappeared. The first alien soldiers to enter the colony found empty buildings. Then the explosion started. Buildings collapsed on top of the advancing troops. Hidden humans fired from concealed positions and then vanished before the aliens could respond. The neat alien formations became chaos as soldiers tried to find enemies who refused to stand and fight. For 3 weeks, the battle continued. The aliens controlled the surface during the day, but at night, the humans emerged from their tunnels like ghosts. They destroyed alien equipment, captured supplies, and killed enemy soldiers who had become separated from their units. The aliens had never experienced anything like this. Their military doctrine assumed that enemies would fight honorably, accepting defeat when it became inevitable. The humans refused to accept defeat, no matter how hopeless their situation appeared. News of the battle spread throughout the galaxy. Other species watched in amazement as a small group of humans held off a vastly superior alien force. Some aliens began to wonder if they had underestimated these strange, new creatures from Earth. The siege of New Houston ended when human reinforcements arrived. A fleet of Earth ships, led by Admiral's father, broke through the alien blockade and rescued the colonists. The aliens retreated, but they had learned something important about humanity. Humans did not fight like other species. They were unpredictable, ruthless, and completely unwilling to surrender. This knowledge would spread throughout the consortium, changing everything about how aliens viewed their new neighbors from Earth. The news from New Houston changed everything. Within months, every species in the consortium knew about the humans who refused to surrender. Some aliens thought it was just luck. Others worried that humans might be more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Maria Santos was a general in the Earth Defense Forces when the aliens made their next big mistake. The consortium decided that humans were too dangerous to live near other species. They announced that all human colonies would be moved to empty worlds far from consortium space. The aliens called it the relocation order. Humans called it something else entirely. The Second Consortium War began when alien fleets surrounded 12 human colonies and demanded immediate evacuation. The aliens expected humans to pack their belongings and leave peacefully. Instead, they got a message from General Santos that became famous throughout the galaxy. "We will not be moved. We will not be controlled. If you want our worlds, come and take them." The aliens were shocked. No species had ever refused a consortium order so directly, but they had committed too much to back down now. War was inevitable. The first battles were disasters for both sides. The aliens had better ships and more advanced weapons, but humans fought with a creativity that terrified their enemies. Captain Ron Blake commanded the human fleet at the Battle of Gate, where everything changed. Blake faced impossible odds, 50 human ships against 300 alien vessels. Every military expert said the humans should retreat and save their ships for a better battle. Blake chose to attack instead. But he did not attack the way aliens expected. Instead of targeting the enemy ships, Blake ordered his fleet to attack the space station that served as the alien command center. While the alien fleet tried to protect their important buildings, Blake's ships flew straight through their formations. The human ships were smaller and faster than alien vessels. They could change direction quickly and fire their weapons while moving. The aliens had to stop their ships to aim properly, making them easy targets for the fast-moving human fighters. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the alien fleet was scattered and their command station was destroyed. Blake had lost only 8 ships while destroying over 60 alien vessels. More importantly, he had proven that human tactics worked against superior numbers. Amy Foster was a military observer who studied how the war affected alien thinking. She noticed that alien commanders became afraid to engage human forces directly. They started avoiding battles they thought they could win because they could not predict what humans might do. The aliens had fought wars before, but they followed strict rules about how battles should be conducted. Weapons had specific purposes. Ships had defined roles. Attacks followed predictable patterns. Humans ignored all these rules and used everything as a weapon. Human engineers turned cargo ships into bombs. They used mining equipment to destroy alien space stations. They even convinced some alien species to switch sides by offering them better trade deals than the consortium provided. The war's turning point came when humans did the unthinkable. Instead of defending their colonies and waiting for the aliens to attack, they launched their own invasion of consortium space. Murphy was the scientist who made this possible. He had studied captured alien technology and found weaknesses that even the aliens did not know existed. Murphy discovered that alien ships were designed to fight in specific environments. Each ship type worked best in certain conditions but became vulnerable in others. Murphy shared this knowledge with human commanders, who immediately began planning attacks that would force alien ships to fight in their worst environments. Ice-world fighters were lured into asteroid fields where they could not maneuver. Desert-world ships were attacked near gas giants where their sensors failed. The technique worked so well that human forces began winning battles they should have lost badly. Alien commanders found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to know their weaknesses better than they knew them themselves. The final battle of the war took place in the Theta system, home to the consortium's capital world. No one had ever attacked the consortium's home system before. The aliens believed it was impossible. General Santos led the human fleet personally. She brought every ship that Earth could spare, knowing that this battle would decide the war's outcome. If the humans lost, Earth itself would be next. If they won, the consortium would have to negotiate. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships attacked from every direction, using tactics that the aliens could not counter. Some ships pretended to retreat, then turned around and attacked pursuing vessels. Others hid behind planets and moons, striking when enemies came too close. The humans even used the system's star as a weapon. They lured alien ships too close to the sun, where the heat damaged their systems. When the aliens tried to retreat, human ships were waiting for them in the cooler areas of the system. After 12 hours of fighting, the alien fleet was defeated. The consortium's greatest military force was destroyed in their own home system. The psychological impact was enormous. If humans could win here, they could win anywhere. The peace negotiations that followed were very different from the first meetings between humans and aliens. This time, the aliens were asking humans what they wanted instead of making demands. The treaty established Earth as an independent power with the right to govern its own colonies. Humans would trade with the consortium, but would not accept consortium law. Most importantly, no alien force would ever again demand that humans abandon their homes. But the victory came with a terrible price. The galaxy now saw humans as unpredictable warriors who could not be controlled or trusted. Trade routes were changed to avoid human space. Alien merchants refused to visit human worlds. Children of other species were told scary stories about the strange creatures from Earth who fought like demons. The reputation that humans had built would follow them for decades. They had won their independence, but they had also made themselves the most feared species in the galaxy. Every alien knew that humans were dangerous enemies who would do anything to win. This fear would shape everything that happened next, as humanity found itself alone among the stars, surrounded by neighbors too frightened to trust them. 20 years passed after the war ended. The galaxy avoided human space like it was infected with a deadly disease. Trade ships changed their routes to stay far from human colonies. Alien diplomats refused to answer messages from Earth. The other species had decided that humans were too dangerous to deal with. Steve Johnson was in charge of human expansion during these lonely years. He watched as his people built new colonies on empty worlds that aliens had abandoned. The fear worked both ways now. Humans stayed away from alien space, and aliens stayed away from human territory. But something unexpected happened during this isolation. Without aliens telling them what to do or how to think, humans began to grow in ways that surprised everyone. The first breakthrough came from Dr. Rachel Stone, who worked in a laboratory on Mars. She was studying something called quantum mechanics, which dealt with the smallest parts of matter. The aliens had always said that controlling quantum forces was impossible for young species. It took thousands of years to understand, they claimed. Rachel proved them wrong in just 5 years. Her discovery happened by accident. She was trying to make better computer chips when she found a way to make matter appear and disappear instantly. The technique could move objects across vast distances without using ships or any transportation at all. When news of Rachel's discovery reached other human scientists, they could hardly believe it. Quantum manipulation was supposed to be the most advanced technology in the universe. The consortium's oldest species had been working on it for centuries without success. But humans approached the problem differently. Instead of following the careful, slow methods that aliens used, human scientists tried wild experiments that seemed crazy. Most of these experiments failed, but some worked in ways that no one expected. Chris Adams was a ship captain who made contact with the few aliens brave enough to trade with humans. These alien merchants were mostly outcasts from their own societies, desperate enough to risk dealing with the feared humans. The aliens who met Adams were amazed by what they saw. Human ships looked nothing like they had 20 years ago. They were faster, stronger, and built using designs that seemed impossible. Human technology had advanced more in 2 decades than most species managed in centuries. One alien trader, a nervous creature with blue skin and 6 arms, asked Adams how humans had learned to build such amazing ships. Adams laughed and explained that humans never stopped experimenting. While other species followed old rules and traditional methods, humans tried new ideas every day. The alien could not understand this. In his culture, young engineers spent decades learning the old ways before they were allowed to try anything new. Innovation was slow and careful, approved by committees of elders who feared making mistakes. Humans worked the opposite way. Young engineers were encouraged to challenge their teachers and try impossible things. Most of their ideas failed, but the ones that worked changed everything. Hayes was one of these young engineers. She designed space stations that everything aliens knew about construction. Her masterpiece was called Olympus Station, a massive structure that housed over 1 million people. Alien engineers who saw pictures of Olympus Station insisted it was impossible. The station was too big and too complex to remain stable. According to their calculations, it should have fallen apart within days of being built. But Olympus Station worked perfectly. It had been operating for 10 years, growing larger every year as humans added new sections. The secret was that had ignored alien engineering rules and developed her own methods based on human understanding of physics. Tony led the Human Exploration Corps, which continued to explore new star systems while the galaxy avoided them. His ships found dozens of habitable worlds that aliens had somehow missed. More importantly, They found ancient ruins that contained technologies even older than the consortium. These discoveries taught humans that the galaxy had a long history of species rising and falling. The consortium was not the first galactic civilization, and it probably would not be the last. This knowledge made humans less impressed by alien claims of superiority. Explorers also found evidence that some ancient species had been very much like humans. They had been creative, aggressive, and unwilling to follow the rules that others tried to impose on them. But these species had disappeared long ago, leaving only ruins and mysteries. The isolation period also saw changes in human society itself. Without alien influence, humans developed their own ideas about how to live in space. They created new forms of government that worked across multiple star systems. They developed art and music that reflected their unique experiences among the stars. Human children born during this time grew up knowing they were different from other species in the galaxy. They were proud of their heritage as the people who had defeated the mighty consortium. They saw aliens not as superior beings to be feared, but as neighbors who had made the mistake of trying to control humanity. But the isolation was not complete. Some information still flowed between human and alien space through the brave traders who risked contact with both sides. These merchants brought disturbing news from the wider galaxy. The consortium was struggling with problems they had never faced before. Some member species were questioning the old ways of doing things. They looked at human achievements and wondered why their own progress was so slow. Young aliens asked why they should follow traditions that seemed to hold them back. The fear of humans was creating cracks in the ancient alliance that held the consortium together. Some species wanted to reach out to humanity and learn from their methods. Others insisted that humans were still too dangerous to trust. While these debates raged in alien councils, humans continued to grow stronger and more advanced. They built new ships, discovered new technologies, and expanded to new worlds. Every year that passed made them more powerful and more confident. The galaxy was changing, even though most aliens tried to pretend that humans did not exist. The isolation that was meant to contain humanity had instead allowed them to become something unprecedented. They were no longer the desperate colonists who had begged for acceptance 20 years ago. They had become a force that could not be ignored much longer. The message arrived on a Tuesday morning at the Earth Defense Council. The current human ambassador was reviewing trade reports when her assistant burst into the office. The young man looked pale and frightened, holding a communication device in his shaking hands. "Ambassador," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "we just received an emergency transmission from the consortium. They're asking for help." Stared at him in disbelief. The same aliens who had refused to speak to humans for 20 years were now sending desperate messages to Earth. She took the device and played the recording. The voice belonged to a named N, the new leader of the consortium council. His usual proud tone was gone, replaced by something had never heard from an alien before, pure terror. "People of Earth," the message began, "we come to you in our darkest hour. Something has emerged from the void between galaxies. They call themselves the Devourers and they consume everything in their path. Our fleets have been destroyed. Our worlds are falling one by one. We beg you to help us." Played the message 3 times before she could believe what she was hearing. The mighty consortium, which had once tried to control humanity, was begging for human assistance. The rest of the message contained battle reports and tactical data that made blood run cold. The Devourers were not like any enemy the galaxy had faced before. They were machines, but not simple robots. They were intelligent, adaptive, and completely without mercy. Admiral Dan Cooper was the first human military officer to study the alien battle reports. What he read kept him awake for 3 nights straight. Every consortium fleet that had engaged the Devourers had been completely destroyed. Not damaged or defeated, but utterly annihilated. The Devourers fought with a precision that was terrifying to observe. Their ships moved in perfect coordination, adapting to enemy tactics within minutes of first contact. When consortium forces tried new strategies, the machines learned and countered them before the battle was over. But the worst part was not how they fought, but what they did after victory. The Devourers did not just destroy enemy fleets. They consumed entire worlds, stripping them of all organic matter and converting it into more machines. Billions of aliens had already died, their home planets reduced to lifeless metal spheres. Dr. Ben Rogers led the team of scientists who analyzed the Devourer technology. What they discovered was more frightening than anyone had imagined. These machines had not been built recently. They were ancient, older than any civilization in the galaxy. The Devourers had traveled between galaxies for millions of years, consuming every form of life they encountered. They had perfected the art of war against organic species, learning from every battle and every victory. Their database contained the tactical patterns of thousands of different civilizations. Rogers realized why the consortium had been so helpless against them. The aliens fought according to predictable rules and traditions. Their military doctrine had remained unchanged for centuries. The Devourers had seen this type of warfare before and knew exactly how to counter it. The refugees began arriving soon after the first distress calls. Massive alien ships filled with survivors appeared at the edges of human space, asking for permission to enter. These were the same species that had avoided humans for 20 years, now desperate enough to seek shelter from their former enemies. The refugee ships told horrible stories of worlds being consumed in hours. The Devourers worked with mechanical efficiency, their harvesting machines stripping away atmosphere, oceans, and all living things. Some aliens had escaped, but most had not been so lucky. Commander Sarah White was put in charge of the refugee camps that sprang up throughout human space. She had never seen aliens in such a broken state. These beings, who had once acted superior to humans, now looked like frightened children. The consortium's military reports painted a picture of complete collapse. Their outer territories were gone, consumed by the advancing Devourer fleets. The surviving forces had retreated toward the galactic core, but the machines followed relentlessly. The Devourers showed no interest in negotiation or surrender. They did not communicate except to demand immediate submission before consumption. They were not conquerors seeking territory or resources. They were harvesters, treating organic life like crops to be gathered. As more reports arrived, humans began to understand the true scale of the threat. The Devourers had consumed dozens of star systems in just a few months. At their current rate of advance, they would reach the galactic core within 2 years. The aliens who had once feared human unpredictability now saw it as their only hope. The Devourers had defeated every conventional military force they encountered, but humans had never been conventional. Ambassador found herself in the strange position of negotiating with aliens who were willing to accept any terms humans offered. The proud consortium leaders who had once demanded human submission now begged for any assistance Earth could provide. But humans were not eager to forgive old grievances. Many Earth leaders questioned why they should risk human lives to save aliens who had tried to destroy them decades earlier. The debate raged in the Earth Parliament for weeks while more refugee ships arrived. The decision became urgent when long-range sensors detected Devourer scout ships approaching human space. The machines had apparently noticed the refugee movements and were investigating. Soon, humanity would face the same threat that had broken the consortium. General Jake, son of the admiral who had fought in the consortium wars, was called to Earth to give his assessment. His words were simple but chilling. These machines will not stop with alien worlds. If we let them consume the rest of the galaxy, Earth will be next. We can fight them now with alien help or face them alone later. The threat was real and immediate. Humanity had to choose between old grudges and survival. The galaxy that had once feared them now depended on them completely. The same species that had tried to control human expansion now looked to humans as their only hope for continued existence. The roles had reversed completely, but the stakes had never been higher. The debate in the Earth Parliament lasted for 3 days. Grace Miller stood at the speaker's podium, her voice echoing through the great hall as she made her case for helping the aliens. "We cannot let the galaxy die," she said, looking at the representatives from dozens of human worlds. "If the devourers consume everything, we will face them alone. That is not a battle we can win." Carl Anderson rose from his seat to respond. His face was hard with old anger as he spoke. "These aliens tried to destroy us. They wanted to control our lives and take our freedom. Now they come crying for help when their own mistakes catch up with them. Let them face the consequences." The argument had been going on for hours. Some humans wanted revenge against the species that had treated them so badly. Others believed that survival was more important than old grudges. The whole galaxy was waiting for Earth's decision. President Jack Lewis listened to both sides, but his mind was already made up. He had read the military reports and knew the truth. The devourers would not stop with alien worlds. They would keep consuming until nothing organic remained in the galaxy. When the debates ended, Lewis stood to address the Parliament. "We will help," he announced, "but we do this on our terms. Human commanders will lead the operation. Human tactics will be used. The aliens will follow our orders, not the other way around." The decision sent shockwaves through both human and alien space. For the first time in galactic history, the proud consortium would serve under alien command. The species that had once claimed superiority would take orders from the humans they had tried to control. Fleet Admiral Susan Clark was chosen to command the combined forces. She was a veteran of the border skirmishes that had continued even during the isolation years. More importantly, she understood how to fight enemies who adapted quickly to conventional tactics. Clark's first order surprised everyone. Instead of gathering the fleet for a direct assault on the devourers, she divided her forces into hundreds of small groups. Each group contained both human and alien ships, with humans in command of every unit. The alien commanders were confused by this strategy. They wanted to mass their remaining fleets for one great battle that would decide the war's outcome. Clark refused to explain her reasoning, telling them only to trust human methods. Captain Peter Brown led one of these mixed units, commanding both human destroyers and alien cruisers. His orders were strange: avoid direct confrontation with devourer fleets and instead attack their supply lines and isolated ships. The campaign began with dozens of small raids throughout devourer-controlled space. Human-led units struck at harvesting operations, destroying the machines that consumed dead worlds. They attacked communication relays and supply depots, always retreating before major devourer forces could respond. The aliens in these units were amazed by human tactics. Where they would have fought formal battles with clear objectives, humans struck like ghosts and vanished. They used asteroid fields and nebulae to hide their ships, emerging only to attack weak targets before disappearing again. The Devourers had never faced this type of warfare. Their tactical programming was designed to counter organized fleets and predictable strategies. The random, chaotic nature of human attacks confused their adaptive systems. Dr. Lucy Hayes had discovered something important about the Devourer network. All their ships were connected to a central intelligence that coordinated their actions. This connection made them incredibly efficient, but it also created a weakness that humans could exploit. Hayes realized that if the network was overloaded with too much conflicting information, the central intelligence might make mistakes. The random attacks were not just military tactics, they were psychological warfare against a machine mind. As the small raids continued, the Devourers began to make errors. Ships that should have worked together started acting independently. Their perfect coordination broke down as the Central Intelligence struggled to process the chaotic human attacks. Admiral Clark watched the battle reports with satisfaction. The Devourers were adapting to individual human tactics, but they could not adapt to complete unpredictability. Every time they learned to counter one strategy, humans switched to something completely different. The final phase of the plan was the most dangerous. Major Kate Phillips volunteered to lead a suicide mission into the heart of Devourer space. Her target was the Nexus system, where the machines had built their primary processing facility. Phillips commanded a single ship filled with experimental quantum weapons that Ben Rogers had designed using captured Devourer technology. The plan was simple: get close enough to the Central Intelligence to destroy it, even if it meant sacrificing her own life. The diversionary attacks began first. Peter Brown and dozens of other human commanders launched simultaneous assaults on Devourer positions throughout the galaxy. The machines responded by concentrating their forces to defend against these attacks. While the Devourers were distracted, Phillips slipped her ship through their defenses toward the Nexus system. Her crew knew they were not coming back, but they also knew that the survival of all organic life depended on their success. The final battle lasted 18 hours. Phillips fought her way through waves of Devourer defenders, her ship taking terrible damage as she pushed toward the central facility. When conventional weapons failed, she activated the quantum bombs that would destroy both her ship and the target. The explosion that followed could be seen from 3 star systems away. When the light faded, the Devourer network had collapsed. Ships that had moved with perfect coordination suddenly stopped responding to commands. The Central Intelligence that had guided them for millions of years was gone. The surviving Devourer machines fled back into the void between galaxies, their threat broken forever. The galaxy was saved, but at a terrible cost. Thousands of brave humans and aliens had died in the fighting. In the aftermath, everything changed. The old consortium was reformed with humans as equal partners. The species that had once feared human unpredictability now sought to learn from it. Alien children studied human history and tactics, trying to understand how such a young species had succeeded where ancient civilizations had failed. Admiral Jake, now an old man, stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt station. Through the transparent walls, he watched human and alien children playing together, their laughter echoing through the corridors. The galaxy had learned that diversity was strength, not weakness. The very differences that had once caused fear and conflict had become the key to survival. Humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy was not their technology or their weapons, but their refusal to accept that anything was impossible. The species that had once tried to control humanity now understood that cooperation was better than domination. Together, they would face whatever challenges the universe might bring, united by the knowledge that they were stronger together than they had ever been apart.